My husband chose his young student over me, until that's the title, and honestly just saying it out loud feels like a punch to the gut. But that's where my life ended up. It started with a Reddit post titled, "My husband is in love with his student, I have no fucking idea what to do." And trust me, when I wrote that, I meant it. I was completely lost, adrift in a sea of confusion and heartbreak. It's funny how your whole world can tilt on its axis in a single conversation. How everything you thought was solid ground just crumbles beneath your feet. Let me take you back. My husband and I, we were that couple. We met in college, both 35 now, but back then we were just kids falling head over heels. It felt like a movie, you know, the kind where everything just clicks. We got married 8 years ago, built a life, a home. In 2020, our daughter was born, and I thought, okay, this is it. This is our forever. He's a doctor, brilliant, handsome, works as a professor at a med school. I always felt a little plain next to him, but he made me feel like the most beautiful woman in the world. Or at least he used to. My friend Sarah, she works at the same college, same department even. We've known each other for ages. A few months back, around December, she took me out for lunch. It started normally, catching up, complaining about work, the usual stuff. But then her tone shifted. She got this serious look on her face, the kind that makes your stomach clench because you know whatever comes next isn't going to be good. She told me she suspected something was going on between my husband and one of his students. A med student, 25 years old, 10 years younger than us. Sarah said she'd seen them not doing anything physical but looking at each other. She called them yearning looks. Can you believe that? Yearning looks. She said she'd known my husband for so long and he'd always been so aloof around other women, almost detached. But with this girl, this student, it was different. He wasn't going out of his way to talk to her, she clarified, but when they did interact, it was intense. Honestly, in that moment, sitting across from Sarah in that bright, cheerful cafe, I laughed. I actually laughed right in her face. It sounded so absurd, so cliché. My husband. The man I knew, the father of my child, involved in some drama straight out of a bad TV show? No way. I told her she was jumping to conclusions, reading way too much into a few glances. That's why I didn't tell you before, Sarah said quietly, looking down at her plate. I was confused too. It's not like he goes out of his way to talk to her, but whenever they do talk, it's like watching a slow-burn romance movie. She looks at him like he's Brad Pitt, and he looks at her the way he used to look at you. Oof, those last words, the way he used to look at you. They hit me like a physical blow. I remember them exactly because they stung deep down where insecurities fester. Internally, I felt something crack, a little fissure starting in the foundation of my world. But externally, I just smiled, forced it really, and told her again, "You're probably just overthinking it, Sarah." But the seed of doubt was planted. That night, I couldn't shake it. Sarah's words kept replaying in my head, the way he used to look at you. I decided to bring it up with him, casually, you know, test the waters. We were cleaning up after dinner, our daughter was asleep, the house was quiet. I started laughing, trying to make it sound like the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard. "You won't believe what Sarah said today," I began, recounting the yearning looks and the slow-burn romance movie comparison. I expected him to join in, to laugh at the absurdity, to roll his eyes and reassure me that Sarah was being dramatic. I needed him to deny it vehemently. But he didn't laugh. He stopped what he was doing, turned to face me, and his eyes, they were filled with tears. My breath caught in my throat. The casual, joking atmosphere evaporated instantly, replaced by a heavy, suffocating tension. And then he said the words that shattered everything. "I'm sorry." Just like that, two simple words, and my world imploded. He didn't deny it. He didn't reassure me. He just stood there looking broken and apologized. "I can't get her out of my mind," he choked out, the tears finally spilling over. "I've tried, trust me, I should have told you sooner, but I thought I could save our relationship. I really wanted to." Wanted to, past tense. That little word hung in the air, heavy with implication. My mind was racing, trying to catch up. Was this real? Was this actually happening? I felt numb, detached, like I was watching this scene unfold from outside my own body. My first coherent thought, my first question was blunt. "Did you cheat on me? Did you sleep with her?" "No," he said quickly, shaking his head. "No, never. I didn't even talk to her outside of college. We have no contact beyond that. I know how wrong it would be, how morally depraved it is to pursue a relationship with a student. I understand the power dynamics, the ethics." He trailed off, looking miserable. He then explained what had happened. About a year before this conversation, the student had written him a letter, a confession of love. My stomach twisted. He said he'd told her then that while he was into her, his words, not mine, nothing could ever happen between them. He was married, he was her professor, it was impossible. Apparently, that's when the yearning looks Sarah had mentioned really started. He admitted he felt something for her, reciprocated her feelings on some level, but claimed he never acted on it beyond that initial acknowledgement. He just let the feelings exist. I honestly don't remember much of my immediate reaction after that. It's like my brain just shut down to protect itself. I think I was crying, maybe yelling, maybe just standing there in stunned silence. The next thing I clearly recall is packing a bag, grabbing our sleeping daughter from her crib, and driving to my parents' house. I didn't know what else to do. Our home, the place we built together, suddenly felt alien, contaminated. And that's where I've been ever since, living with my parents, my daughter in tow, in this strange limbo. It's been months now, months of silence on the issue that broke us apart. Half of me, the stupid, hopeful, naive part, kept waiting for him to show up to bang on the door, flowers in hand, begging for forgiveness, telling me it was all a mistake, that he loved me, only me. But he never did. He comes by sometimes to see our daughter. He plays with her, reads her stories, acts like dad, and then he leaves. We're polite, cordial even. We talk about logistics, schedules, our daughter's latest milestones. But we never, ever talk about the elephant in the room. The massive, crushing weight of his confession of his feelings for another woman hangs between us unspoken, and I don't bring it up either. It's like we've tacitly agreed to pretend it didn't happen, even though it's the only thing that matters. The silence is deafening. His indifference is a constant, dull ache in my chest. He doesn't fight for us. He doesn't try to explain. He just exists, seemingly content with this fractured reality. It's like he's waiting for me to make the next move to officially end things, maybe so he doesn't have to be the bad guy. People online, when I eventually shared my story, pointed that out, that his lack of effort spoke volumes. His line, "I thought I could save our relationship, I really wanted to," they said it was clearly in the past tense. He'd already given up. He just hadn't told me until I forced it out of him. And while he carries on, seemingly unburdened, I torture myself. I do the one thing everyone tells you not to do. I check her social media. The student, his love interest, infatuation, whatever she is. And damn it, she's everything I feel I'm not. She's insanely beautiful in that effortless, almost doll-like way. Young, vibrant, intelligent, she's a med student after all. Looking at her pictures, her accomplishments, I can't help the toxic thoughts that creep in. Maybe someone like him, handsome, successful, brilliant, should be with someone like her. She's the bright, shiny future. I'm the comfortable, worn-in past. She's the Meredith Grey to his Derek Shepherd, a dramatic, passionate affair waiting to happen. And I'm just me, plain Jane Mombad, tired eyes. The comparison is brutal, and I know I shouldn't do it, but it's like picking at a scab. It hurts, but I can't stop. People on Reddit told me to stop putting myself down, to stop idealizing her. They said he's probably just infatuated with the idea of her, this fantasy he's built up because they haven't actually had a real relationship. They pointed out the power imbalance, how naive she must be, caught up in a crush on her older, charismatic professor. And maybe they're right, maybe it isn't real love, but does that even matter? He admitted he reciprocated her feelings. He admitted he couldn't get her out of his mind. That, as one commenter rightly pointed out, is emotional cheating. He crossed a line long before I even knew there was a line to cross. He chose to entertain the fantasy instead of nurturing our reality. Someone else mentioned that crushes happen even in marriage, but the key is where you put your energy. You're supposed to water your own garden, your marriage, and let the crush wither. He didn't do that. He watered the crush, let it bloom in his mind while our connection wilted from neglect. So here I am, months later, still living at my parents', still legally married, still completely lost. What do I even tell people? How do I explain that my marriage didn't end because of some big fight or irreconcilable differences, but because my husband fell in love with a fantasy, with a student young enough to be, well, not his daughter, but certainly not his contemporary? How do I rebuild my life when I feel like my identity was so wrapped up in being his wife? Who am I without him? Some part of me, the part I hate, still wants him back. Still hopes he'll wake up one day, realize what he's lost, and come running. But the other part, the part that's been listening to the silence, reading the comments, facing the cold, hard reality, that part knows it's probably over. He's checked out, he made his choice, even if he didn't act on it physically. He chose the fantasy over me, over our family. The comments online were a strange sort of comfort. Strangers offering perspectives I hadn't considered, like the fact that his job could genuinely be at risk if this ever came out officially. Pursuing a student, even emotionally, is a serious breach of ethics in academia, especially in a med school environment. Maybe that's why he told her nothing could happen, not out of loyalty to me, but out of self-preservation. That thought is bleak. People urged me to focus on myself, to rediscover who I am outside of the marriage. Easier said than done, but I know they're right. They suggested divorce, filing the papers to gain closure and start moving forward. I am in individual therapy, trying to sort through the wreckage in my head, but couples therapy? No, I don't think that's an option. How can you fix something when one person isn't even trying? One piece of advice that stuck with me was simple: live in the truth. And the truth, however painful, is that my husband's heart is elsewhere. He broke my trust. He's not fighting for our marriage. He's waiting for me to end it. The truth is, the man I married, the life I thought I had, it's gone. And living with that truth day in and day out, while seeing him interact with our daughter like nothing's wrong, it's unbearable. The pretending, the politeness, the giant, unspoken chasm between us, it's eating away at me. That's why I added that edit to my post. After reading all the responses, absorbing the advice, the harsh truths, the encouragement, I decided I couldn't live in this limbo anymore. I couldn't keep avoiding the inevitable. I needed to rip the Band-Aid off, as painful as it would be. I needed answers, or at least I needed finality. I needed to stop waiting for him to maybe, possibly someday choose me again. I needed to face him, to have the conversation we've both been avoiding for months. So I decided I'm going over there to our house, the house that feels more like a museum of a life I used to have, My hands were shaking as I drove. My heart was pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. What would I say? What did I even want to hear? Part of me still desperately craved a miracle, a sudden reversal. But the stronger, more rational part knew what was likely coming. I was walking back into that house not necessarily to fight for him, but to fight for myself. To demand the truth, the whole truth, no matter how ugly. To close this chapter one way or another. Enough was enough. I couldn't keep living like this, suspended between a past that was gone and a future I couldn't see. It was time. Time to confront him, time to find out what happens next. Walking up to the front door felt surreal. The key still worked, sliding into the lock with a familiar click, pushing the door open, stepping inside. It smelled the same, looked the same, but it felt entirely different, colder, emptier. He was in the living room, reading, looking surprised to see me show up unannounced, especially without our daughter. "Hey," he said, putting his book down, a flicker of confusion, maybe apprehension in his eyes. "Everything okay?" "No," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "Nothing is okay and we need to talk. Now, no more avoiding it." He sighed, a deep, weary sound, like he knew this was coming, like he'd just been waiting for me to initiate it. He didn't argue. He just nodded slowly and gestured towards the couch. We sat down, miles apart on the sofa we bought together, the silence stretching between us thick and heavy. "So," he started, then stopped. He looked lost, unsure how to begin the conversation he'd clearly been dreading. "So," I echoed, taking a deep breath. "What is this? What are we doing? Are you waiting for me to file for divorce? Is that what you want?" The questions tumbled out blunt and direct, no more dancing around it. He looked down at his hands, avoiding my gaze. I don't know what I want," he mumbled. "Don't you?" I challenged, feeling a surge of anger replacing the fear. "Because it seemed pretty clear back in December. You couldn't get her out of your mind, you were into her. Has that changed? Did you magically fall back in love with me while ignoring me for months?" He flinched at my tone. "It's not that simple," he said, finally looking up, his eyes pleading for understanding. "Yes, I still think about her, I care about her, but I know it's wrong. I haven't done anything, I haven't crossed any more lines." "You crossed the biggest line already," I shot back, the numbness finally cracking, letting the pain and betrayal flood through. "You fell in love, or whatever you want to call it, with someone else. You admitted it. You let that fantasy grow while our marriage died. You didn't fight, you didn't try, you just gave up. You said you wanted to save our relationship, past tense." He ran a hand through his hair, looking agitated. "What do you want me to say? That I made a mistake? I did, I know I did, but I can't just switch off these feelings overnight." "Feelings you nurtured," I insisted. "Feelings for a student, someone you have power over, someone who wrote you a love letter. Did you ever stop to think about me, about our daughter? About the fact that you could lose your job over this?" The words from the Reddit comments echoed in my mind. He looked startled at the mention of his job. "It wouldn't come to that," he said quickly. "Nothing happened." "Emotionally, something happened," I cried, tears finally starting to fall. Hot, angry tears. "You checked out, you left me emotionally long before I packed my bags, and the worst part, you didn't even have the guts to end it. You just let me leave, let me twist in the wind for months, hoping I'd do the dirty work for you." He winced, looking genuinely ashamed for the first time. Maybe you're right," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "Maybe I was a coward, I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know how to face you, knowing how I felt, knowing I'd hurt you so badly." We sat in silence for a moment, the raw honesty hanging heavy in the air. It wasn't the passionate declaration of love for her I'd half expected, nor was it the desperate plea for forgiveness I'd secretly hoped for. It was just sad. Pathetic almost. He wasn't choosing her over me in some grand, dramatic gesture. He was just stuck, lost in his own head, paralyzed by guilt and infatuation, unable to choose anything decisively. And in that moment, watching him sitting there looking small and conflicted, something inside me shifted. The image I had of him, the brilliant doctor, the confident professor, the man I'd put on a pedestal, it flickered and faded. I saw him not as the romantic hero choosing his tragic love, but as a man who got lost, who entertained a fantasy because reality got hard, who hurt his family deeply because he couldn't manage his own feelings or communicate honestly. The yearning looks suddenly seemed less like a slow-burn romance and more like immaturity. The grand passion I'd imagined felt hollow. He wasn't choosing her, not really. He was just failing to choose me, failing to choose our life. Failing to fight. And the until in my story, it wasn't some dramatic external event. It wasn't him suddenly realizing the error of his ways or the student dramatically exiting the picture. The until was internal. It was the moment I realized, sitting on that couch, looking at the man I thought I couldn't live without, that I didn't want to live with this version of him. The version who couldn't commit, who couldn't communicate, who let a crush derail our entire life and wasn't even strong enough to own his decisions. He hadn't chosen his student over me, not definitively. He had simply chosen his own confusion, his own fantasy, over the effort required for a real relationship. Until I saw it clearly. Until I realized his indecision wasn't something to wait out, but something to walk away from. "I can't do this anymore," I said, the tears stopping as a strange sense of calm settled over me. It wasn't the fiery anger from before, but a quiet, firm resolution. "I can't wait for you to figure things out. I can't live in this limbo wondering if you'll ever choose us again. I deserve more than that. Our daughter deserves more than that. He looked up startled. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm done waiting, I replied, standing up. I think you're right. I think you want me to file for divorce, so I will. The finality in my voice seemed to shock him more than my anger had. Maybe he thought I'd fight more, plead, try to win him back. Maybe he hadn't truly considered what losing us would mean until I said the words out loud. I saw a flicker of panic in his eyes, a dawning realization, but it was too late. He started to say something. Wait, maybe we can. No, I cut him off gently but firmly. There's no we to fix right now. You need to figure yourself out, and I need to figure out how to move forward for me and for our daughter. We can be civil for her sake, but us. The marriage, it's over. You ended it months ago, even if you didn't realize it. Leaving the house this time felt different. It wasn't a panicked flight fueled by shock and heartbreak. It was a deliberate exit. It still hurt and ached deep in my soul, but it was overlaid with a sense of clarity, of reclaiming my own power. He hadn't chosen her, not really. He'd just failed to choose me, and I finally realized I deserved someone who would choose me unequivocally. Until that moment, I hadn't fully grasped that I had a choice too, and I chose myself. I chose peace. I chose to stop fighting for someone who wasn't fighting for me. The road ahead is uncertain, and rebuilding my life won't be easy. But for the first time in months, I don't feel completely lost. I know who I am without him. I'm a mother, I'm a survivor, and I'm stronger than I ever thought possible. And that's a start.